So good morning, everyone. So I welcome you all to this Young Indian Theosophist Forum every Sunday meeting. So we will start with the universal invocation. O hidden life, vibrant in every atom.
O
hidden light, shining in every creature. O hidden love, embracing all in oneness. May each who feels himself as one with thee know he is therefore one with every others. Let's observe silence for a couple of minutes. Right? So today's topic is ethics. So our speaker is Brother U.S.Pandey, and he is the president of UP and Uttarakhand. He is a national lecturer. He writes articles and books and conducts many camps. So apart from that, he doesn't need any introduction, I know. So we all know him. So let's welcome Brother U.S.Pandey. Over to you.
Okay. Thank you, Smitaji, for introducing me. And I'm thankful to Young India Theosophists Group for inviting me to share some views on ethics today. First of all, I extend my very hearty warm greetings to all of you. Sabhi ko namaskar. So the today's subject, as you already know, the ethics. Today we'll see some points. What is ethics? What are the types of ethics? What are the criteria? How it is go about it, and some other points. And I was talking to Smitaji a few days back. There are many aspects of this subject which cannot be covered in one lecture. So she agreed that I can take few more lectures on this subject, and we'll continue next month also probably. So coming to today, it will be mostly introductory type basics. What is ethics? Ethics has been called as a science of morality. Sometimes both the word ethics and morality are interchanged in use, in practical use. But technically, ethics is science and morality is application. You can say there is a science of physics, science of biology, and the application of that. The morality is a technological aspect of the pure science of ethics. And it is also called science of conduct, science of proper conduct, science of laws for living the life. So ethics can be explained in this way. And ethics have got, when it comes to application morality, then it divides itself in many groups. Broadly, we can say there is a universal ethics, universal morality, and the social morality. Of course, there is some individual morality also. Social morality is defined by particular societies. They relate to how do we relate in our social relations with each other. And every social culture has different parameters. For example, when it comes to marriages, to whom marriage, some has Gotra is defined, some has not defined, all those called social moralities. Then universal moralities, which are applicable to everywhere, irrespective of the society, social background, irrespective of the place, irrespective of the period. They are universal values. And these universal moral principles are the nature's laws, which cannot be changed, which cannot be altered. They are called the impress of the God on the nature. The God is working through nature, in nature, through these laws. So God is called law, law is God. And the expression of that law is through these universal ethical points. So as a human being, we have to observe both the laws. In particular society we have to observe the social laws of morality, which applies to that society, to that environment, to that background. And when we change the society, for example, a person comes from Indian background to American background, then for that period he has to follow the here. Morality, social morality may be different at certain points, as our experience is everywhere. So, but universal principles, universal ethics will be same, and they'll be applicable to everywhere. So science, we know there are various sciences: biology, psychology, physics. The science of morality, if we want to club with one of these known sciences, it can be clubbed with the science of psychology. Because basically, this science of morality or ethics, the purpose is to alter our psychological makeup, psychological attributes. Normally, every person has got innate character, psychological character when he's born, which he gets according to the modern scientific principle from heredity, according to theosophic principle from his karmic effect of previous life. Everybody has a unique character. So those characters, whether they are the attributes of those characters, whether they are in tune, in line with the universal principles of the ethics or morality or social morality, it is not always, it's not necessary. So a person has to change his psychological attributes by conscious effort to bring in line with these principles of morality, whether universal or social. So it is akin to this psychological transformation, psychological change, psychological transmutation, that is changing of psychological personality, what we call astral personality. And then mental personality also changes. So these laws of conduct are govern our action. They're not just theoretical laws, because finally they reflect in our actions. And it depends upon our actions whether we create harmony in the society, harmony in ourselves, in our family, in our community, in our country, in humanity as a whole. When we talk of humanity also, then we extend that whole kingdom, all the animal kingdom and plant kingdom and mineral kingdom, or by our conduct, whether we create disharmony. So finally, test of the application of the principle of morality will rest whether our conduct, daily conduct in accordance with those principles or those change principles, if you have changed at all, is creating harmony or disharmony. If it's creating harmony, that means we are following the laws. If it is creating disharmony, that means we are not, either we are misguided or we are misinterpreting the law or deliberately we are ignoring the law. This thing was told very simple at the feet of master when it is said there are two categories of people who know and who do not know. Know what? Divine plan. And the persons who work according to divine plan, they are on the God side. That means they are on the law side. They are the ethical value side, universal ethical value side. And those who do not know, they are against it. So the evolution process of the self and the society and the humanity will run smoothly upwards if we follow the divine plan, divine laws, which are appearing in form of basic theoretical principle, universal morality. And as far as social morality is concerned, we have to definitely follow those unless, but there we have to observe whether one of the social moral principles today, whether they are result of some past traditions, some of our scripture, some traditions about which you do not know, or if we apply our logic, if they appear to be just simply superstition or useless in the present age, you have to discard it. So they are changeable, and for that, deciding whether they are superstitious or they are useful in today's environment, we have to apply again universal principle. We have to come to universal ethical principle. So universal ethical principle, one function will be to test whether our social moral principles are in accordance with the universal principle or not. And if we feel by our logical deduction, logical induction, that if any of our social morality points are in contradiction to the universal law, then we have to discard that, to abandon that. We have to move away towards the social universal things. So that is our baseline. That means baseline becomes universal principle, universal ethics. So right conduct finally will decide whether harmony or disharmony, and harmony and disharmony in that factor appear whether happiness or unhappiness. Now, when we talk about happiness and unhappiness, this is not the transient happiness and unhappiness, but the inward peace, inward happiness, the work if we are doing according to universal ethics. Whether that may be difficult, that may be painful, but it brings inward happiness, inward peace conditions. And if we contradict it, if we do not follow it, whether in immediate future, it may look very beneficial, very advantageous, but finally it creates disorder within our inner psyche. We lose peace, we create anxiety, and sometimes repentance and all those things follows. Morality, if it is where it is known and regarded, harmony prevails, and the harmony brings happiness. And morality, if it is not known, if it is disregarded, it creates disorder. As we are known and we are told that whole universe functions in ordered manner. There are laws, universal. In fact, the word cosmos itself means order, beauty. So whole universe, cosmos, is a beautiful one. It's following certain laws, orders. That's why our Vedas call Rita. Rita means order. This Rita word was later translated into Gita as dharma. That dharma is applying at every level, at universal level, at individual level, at society level. Dharma, one of the meanings of dharma would be order. That means certain laws they are following this phenomenon world according to which there is order. Apparent disorder also gets created within that order. In fact, sometimes apparent disorder is to create the to balance the disturbed harmony. Just like example is given, if we put a pebble in the pond and the calmness of the water body, water surface is disturbed, finally the waves go and react, and the calmness is restored. Similarly, when we create some disorder in the universal order, the disturbance occurs. And those disturbances appear to us painful, harmful, but purpose of them to again restore the harmony, restore the balance. Recently, we had a very unfortunate experience going through the corona all over the world. According to esoteric philosophy, all these Mahamari, the great epidemics, are also a result of the disorder created in universal order by the human mind, by the human thought. And if our human thought, human feeling becomes beneficial, universal, the incidence of such epidemics also will get reduced. So order is the everywhere, and purpose of ethics and morality is to create order. Man, as we are told in theosophy and everywhere, man, essence of man, real man is divine in nature. And his happiness is his birthright. That is why God or Brahman is called Satchita Ananda. Ananda is one aspect. So not only man, every living creature, every creature has got innate desire for the Ananda, which is happiness. And that can be ensured only when ethical laws are followed, universal ethics, which are in accordance with the universal ethics. This Ananda aspect is also appears in other scriptures also. For example, in Christians, Bible says, joy of the Lord. That means we are participating, we are partaker of the joy of Lord. Lord is always joyful. Hence, when man puts himself into accordance with the world order, which is divine, he brings his separated will into harmony. with the universal will, which is in sometimes called we are doing according to will of God, that is according to divine plan. So man has given a certain amount of limited free will. Man is the only creature which has got freedom to break the universal laws and then reap the consequences of that and learn by that process. So long as our free will is in line with the universal will or God's will or divine plan, it will create harmony. And then we are follower of the real science of ethics, real morality principle. Perfect morality would and must bring out perfect harmony among all living things and therefore perfect happiness. The efforts of a man to bring himself into this harmony are often accompanied with pains. Why pain? Because every man is accustomed with selfish nature, and he wants to grasp more than his neighbor, more than his co-worker, more than his other members of the family, was family. So in that, he deprives others of something. For example, a simple thing, if we are wasting water, we are wasting electric energy in daily life, then we are depriving somebody of that. So now if at some moment we realize that we should restrict our consumption of the water and electricity so that we are not depriving that, so to that extent we become inconvenienced. We feel some pain initially, but later on we get adjusted and then we feel that now we are not depriving anybody, and that creates inner happiness, inner peace, harmony. So it is also compared like this. For example, some injury is in my hand and I have to apply some medicine, give an injection. Temporary some pain will be there, but finally the purpose of that pain is to restore my hand, my injury to the health. So restoring to the order will create pain, will create unhappiness, very temporary. Finally, it will create happiness and restore the harmony, health. So health, when we talk about health, then there's physical health and mental health and psychic health. For physical health, we know laws of hygiene. Following laws of hygiene is very necessary to clean our body, to clean our environment, to take pure food, pure water, pure air, and breathing. Similarly, the ethical fitness is necessary for our psychic and mental health. Ethical fitness. Ethical fitness comes only when follow the ethical principle or morality law as applicable. As to the extent we can understand, we follow that. That will bring ethical fitness. And that will keep our psychic and mental body in fit condition to not only to aid our evolution, but to help us to aid other creatures also in their evolutionary march. And basic things of this thing has been taught by our great teachers. When in Dhammapada, Buddha said, Lord Buddha declares, that if a man speaks or acts with an evil thought, pain follows him, as the wheel follows the foot of the ox that draws the carriage. You know, at that time, bullock carts were there were no motor cars, so Buddha naturally is the example of bullock cart. He says, if a man does evil thing, the pain follows, just like a wheel of the bullock cart follows the heel of the bullock who drawing his. And sometimes that wheel hits also his hind leg, bullock, then he gets pain. And if a man speaks or acts with the pure thought, happiness follows him like a shadow that never leaves him. Now, when it creates shadow, shadow does not cause any pain. So Buddha is comparing the outcome of the noble thought with shadow, which would always with the man, and he's comparing the outcome of the evil act with the wheel behind the hind leg of the bullock who drawing the carriage, which wheel sometimes hits it. As I said, God has been defined or principle as loving. Whole nature is loving with the happiness, and his creatures and that happiness can only be permanently through about by the harmony of with that divine plan, which is measured at the. This is also termed in our scripture harmony with the divine will or God's will. But basically it means divine with the universal ethical principle, harmonious with the ethical principle. In Gita, it is said that same yajna, when man performs yajna for the gods become pleased and they cause the rain to come and the food grains get grown up and man becomes satisfied. And then man and God should exchange those sacrifices. So sacrifice is one law in the universal ethics. Man has to evolve by principle of sacrifice that will come later. So as the object of morality is universal happiness, that we must be clear. So it is the basis that on which the happiness depends, the primary truth of morality as of realizing the unity of the life. Finally, the philosophy of theosophy, philosophy of our deeper scriptures like Upanishad, like Bhagavad Gita, even Bible, even Quran, the deeper teaching, finally they come to the unity of the life. But this is not very clearly and especially mentioned in scriptures as it is mentioned in our aesthetic philosophy, theosophy. That is the only basis. In other scriptures, it is mentioned allegorically. For example, when it says God is one, God is everywhere, God is loving. Yes, some allegory and is mentioned, but basis is same, universal unity. And that's why this Swami Vivekananda goes to that extent saying that all the religious teachings are false. All the religious teachings are false and superstitious except the principle of unity. So whatever religion we are following, if our belief or practice of that religion is in contradiction to unity of life, then we must be prepared to abandon that practice, that belief. Then only will be in accordance with the real religious attitude and religious life. We have seen the God is one, that he dwells in every man, in the immortal self of the man, and every living being. We have seen that universal brotherhood is the inevitable corollary of the divine unity. And that's why our masters emphasized on the universal brotherhood. In fact, they say in the letter that no universal ethics can be effective unless the universal brotherhood principle is followed. The man-made rules or statutes or constitution rules cannot enforce the universal ethics. They can only make laws and man becomes free to violate it. But once comes the universal brotherhood, universal oneness, then those laws become practical. That's why so much emphasis on the principle of universal brotherhood, no, the distinction of race, kind, creed, etc., etc. So the divine unity we have to experience, we have to feel first with our immediate neighbor, with our and expanding its circumstance, and finally we have to embrace the whole universe. That means no discrimination. We have to observe and feel that entire humanity is one body. This is also, again, compared in various scriptures, in our Upanishad also, in Mahatma letters also, whole humanity is like one body. And each of us are its organ. If one organ gets injured, other organs is bound to feel the effect of that, and whole body cries in pain. This is also a very often quoted example that whole humanity is one body. And if one unit injures other unit, it injures the body itself and injures itself. It is just like that. If hand is there and our leg is there, if hand somehow injures our leg, we're not able to move. But then hand will also feel result of that, will feel the adverse effect of that leg being injured. So if a man injures another, he will injure himself. Nonetheless, surely, but the moment he may not realize it, as our knowledge grows, we realize it more and more. Initial stage of evolution, when man is on this downward arc, he does not realize this. And that time is natural because maturity is improving, maturity increasing. But as soon as he starts realizing, or as soon as he enters the return path or point of return, he starts realizing this. And whole spiritual progress is thus from not realizing unity towards realizing unity. That is a whole spiritual journey. And that is necessary not only for a spiritual journey, but also in worldly life. Realized not only as in theory, but in practice, to whatever extent we can do. Again, it is known that it cannot be done perfectly by everybody at this stage of evolution. And that is why the teachers and prophets, avatara, they have to come again and again to tell us, to remind us that we have to follow that. But as present evolution level, our nature, our human nature is that we try to omit it, overlook it. But gradually we get pain and all this thing, and we learn, and gradually will improve. So it may take many lives, and if man makes serious effort, he can learn the lesson in one life itself. As the health of the individual body depends on obedience to the laws of hygiene, as I told you earlier. So each organ working in harmony with the other organ, and body remains healthy. Similarly, our psychic and mental faculty will remain in proper order and healthy if we follow these principles. And psychic and mental faculty, order or disorder in that, also affects disorder and order in the physical body. That's why today even medical people say and admit that 90% diseases are psychosomatic. Once our psychic and mental are in order, the 90% of our physical illness also goes away. The will of the God points straightforwardly to the highest good and guides his universe towards good. The work with this will is to be the harmony with the movement of the world system. What are the world systems in which we belong? The world system, the political system, the social system, educational system, all those systems are the family systems. So these are the world systems. In all these world systems, we have to see how far the principle of universal ethics are being disregarded, are being deliberately violated. And then we have to try to correct at our level. We know that individual level, we cannot correct whole system, but to the extent we can make effort, and also recommended where we cannot correct, we feel that we are not competent to correct the whole system, the whole political system. So at least we should dissociate from that system, which is creating disharmony, division in the society. And at least mentally, we should support the system which is just opposite that. So that way, we'll be at least saved from the karmic effect of the disorder being created by some vested interest, whether in politics and society and religious area. To do right, here there comes question of right and wrong. So to do right is to be at peace with yourself, and to be ill is to be at disharmony with the God. Sage Vyas say that all the 18 Puranas written by him, the essence of all these 18 Puranas is only doing right thing would become good, and doing wrong thing become evil. So this is the essence of all the 18 Purana teaching. When Buddha also was to define his teaching in a few words, he said to cause pain to others is wrong, to cause happiness to others is right. So right and wrong has to be discriminated. What is the right and wrong? So there are three ways in which the right and wrong has been explained to be discriminated by Viveka, by discernment. First is the way of religion and science. Our religious teachers, the great teachers, have laid down the various principles. For example, Yama Niyama, then 10 sayings of in Sermon to the Mount, then Panchashila, Saptashila, Buddhist philosophy. Then also there are other scriptures. These are the by Manu's 10 points are there, 10 points of conduct in Mano Dharma Shastra. So all these are the laws which our nature, which our sages of ancient sages saw by their practical experience, and they told us to follow. They are not theoretical laws. By their experience, they experienced and they felt that these laws will create order in the society, order in the humanity, order in the individual. So they prescribed that. But as human nature, they also knew human nature would not be able to follow. So they gave incentive of that if you follow this thing, you go to heaven. If you do not follow, you go to hell, and all those things. And those are stories were made to man sensitized about those laws. So expression of divine reason, they are reasonable, and if we evolve ourselves sufficiently, we can trust those laws. For example, when Buddha says, if you do good to thing, you have happiness follow. No, this is anybody can experience. If you are helping somebody completely selflessly, the inner feeling happiness you feel, you cannot describe. So this can be tested by a slightly evolved person also. And if we evolve much, we can experiment all these laws and we find these are true. Nowadays, many psycho and philosophical research are going on, mental psycho research, and which are going proving this. For example, a few years back when I was US, I came across a research finding in a paper where they had tested what happens when a person habitually speaks lies. As you know, speaking truth is emphasized in every religion. That's one of the first fundamentals, not to lie and not to spread falsehood, but to speak only truth. So that experiment which was conducted, of course, a limited sample, that in brief, and other group is behaving occasionally, they speak. So they put that sensors in the brain, all those things, and they asked them to tell lies, and they started measuring these ECGs and all those things. Then finally, their conclusion is that the persons who are habitually liars, they are more prone to migraine and peptic disorder. The persons who are habitual liars, they are more prone to the migraine, peptic peptic ulcer. So it doesn't mean that everybody who is having peptic ulcer, migraine is speaking is a liar, is habitual liar. It doesn't mean, but there can be many other factors also. But this finding is important. And this corroborates that these laws which are made, not speaking lies and adhering to truth, has got a scientific basis, and it can be verified. And if followed, then it can be improve our physical health also, and mental and psychic health. Similarly, about the other basic virtues which have been defined. And this is given by scriptures, and this is scientific method, because science, you also know, for example, certain facts, we make experiment in our laboratory, then based on results, we conclude certain hypotheses, and that hypothesis we test again, we find that this hypothesis is right or wrong. So this scriptures, the instructions on these things is exactly scientific method they have been adopted, and we can test it. Then second way is of intuition, or what is conscience. As every scripture, and particularly Blodsky say, when there is choice, whether you do this thing or that thing, then you look into your conscience. What does it say? Do not follow advice simply because he's senior, he's more wise. His advice may, in fact, may not be suit you because his stage of evolution and your stage of evolution may be different. Here comes the principle that right and wrong becomes relative, depending upon our stage of evolution. The one course of action may be right for me, may not be right for you, maybe slightly variation needed. So a person has to look into the conscience, what that conscience says in that particular situation, and acts accordingly. Sometimes that conscience may bring results of painful, which are not advantageous, but do not bother, but that you learn lesson. If you just follow advice of somebody against your conscience, then though it may bring happy result at the moment, but you're deprived of your learning the lesson, you'll not learn. So you'll not become self-independent. You're not able to stand on your legs, which is the purpose of stage of human evolution. Person has to stand on his own legs. Now he cannot take other help, other person's help to crutch to move on for being perfect human being. So second way is called conscience, which is sometimes called intuition also, but this is not actually intuition, because intuition is universal and conscience becomes personal. But we can it can be called instinctive intuition. So conscience we have to follow. And finally, if we start following conscience, then it leads to development of intuition, which is called buddhi principle. And then finally, whatever our intuition tells, we follow, and then it becomes universal, and everybody comes in that. So that is second way. And third way is what is called in English utilitarianism. In Hindi, you can call it upayogita baad, that greatest good for greatest numbers. greatest good for greatest numbers. We should, when there is choice, whether this way or that way, the way to be followed, which our common sense says would produce greatest good for greatest number. But here there's a fallacy. The minority is also not to be deprived of the goodness. So if we follow only greatest good, the minority is left out. The weaker person is left out. So here we have to keep that also point of view. And that's why Mahatma Gandhi brings out another point. When there is choice, whether this way or that way, then we have to look whether this is going to be beneficial or harmful to the weakest section of the society, the weaker persons. So that is another standard. Greatest good for greatest number has also to be supplemented with this welfare of the weakest portion of the society, weakest and weaker portion of society. That should not be overlooked. Because in some cases, if you look only goodness of majority, the weaker portion is likely to get left out, and that will create karmic effect on the whole society. So union of these three ways means scientific or religious way, conscious way, the way of conscience, and utilitarian ways. That is, all these gets united in the principles of unity of life, which theosophy and aesthetic science prescribes. So if we follow the unity of life principle in all our ethical principles, authority conduct, morality, then we apply all these three ways also in a harmonious way, and then we can never fail. So one life, one consciousness have to be realized for universal good. Unity is the root, universal love is the root, selfless love, selfless unity. Only this teaching can eradicate all the class, racial, and national hatreds, put an end to the suspicion and contempt, and draw all men and women together. Brodsky says in her words, very poetical words, when all the men and women become brothers and sisters, when all look after each other, one person looked after others look after that person, then only perfect harmony, perfect order will be established in this society. And that is the purpose of this teaching. That's teaching of ethical principles. Even though following social moral principles where we have to discriminate whether certain social moral principles are in contradiction to the universal principles. We have to apply that, and we have to check that. Now here the importance comes also of character. As I told earlier, that everybody born with some innate character traits. Some people from the very birth, they have got some good noble characters, some bad character. But those characters, if you are conscious, our bad characters, bad habits can be changed. So a person of brilliant, may be very brilliant, but may be bad character. And then finally, the society, though many people get attracted to that brilliance, to the oratory, but finally they realize and they leave that person. So every walk of life, the man of high character is sought for and loved and trusted the fellow follow, even though he may not be that brilliant, may not be that resourceful. Finally, even if you see according to society, even the so-called evildoer, if he wants his people, his company, he wants a good person sometimes to help him, to advise him right thing, and also so that his reputation not is spoiled too much that he's keeping bad company. So even the evil people, they like that some good people may be in their company. So there is a right and wrong which are of universal valency, an outcome or negation of their love, which is fulfilling of the universal love. As I told you, the essence of Purana says only right, doing right and wrong. And this is reflected in all these scriptures. The life of the world shows two great stages of evolution. As I told you, that right and wrong will depend upon the stage of evolution for everybody. That's why it becomes relative. But finally, our aim should be to go universal right, universal wrong. But in any case, we must keep note of this also relative thing. As we know, we are told in the theosophy, there are two main sectors of the evolution. One is descent, arc of descent, what is called Pravritti Marg, and one is arc of ascent, Nivritti Marg. The first 3.5 races were in the downward arc. They were moving on the Pravritti Marg, and now of the turning point, 3.5 race in the 4th round, We have crossed the turning point, just turning and enter, or we are just standing at the entrance of the pravritti marg. So the theosophical morals as a society will depend upon at what stage humanity is there. And that's why this teaching became important in theosophical teaching, the arc of descent, arc of ascent, where our location is, because that location changes according to age. So if we follow that so long as bulk of humanity was in arc of descent, certain were section justified. For example, primitive people are barbarians. They were attacking people. They were seizing property of some other people. At this time, to us, it's it's a very wrong thing. But at that time, probably it was right. For them, they were to develop their strength. They were to develop their individual faculties, capabilities, capacity. That for them, it was right. But at this stage, when we have just crossed, or we have just entering the arc of ascent, that thing is completely wrong. And we have to see at the stage of evolution of humanity. And that's why the importance of teaching of theosophy principle. Because as we observe in the society, though the bulk of humanity has crossed this turning point, but bulk of the individuals do not seem to be realized this point, and they are still in the grasping stage, in the arc of descent stage, increasing their materiality. So it becomes the duty of every theosophist to propagate the principles of theosophy to the extent he can do, he or she can do, not imposing, so that man and women should realize now he is at a stage of evolution where this attitude will create harm to her or him, not only individually, but to society. So we have to tell them, dear brother and sister, what you are doing is not correct at this stage, might be have been correct at some other stage, but now we have to move on. So the stage of evolution will decide, but still there will be some units at that time, at this time also, who have not entered, who have not reached this turning point, and we can judge, and then we can leave them alone, because the way they are doing, probably that is helping them in evolution, bringing them clearer. We should not force also. That is why all the deeper teaching, even Gita says, it is not for them who are not prepared to listen, or we may get bad effect. And even Christ has said, these are not meant for the swines and all those things, various scriptures have been brought in. So we have to see the attitude of person also to how far is receptive. And accordingly, we have to propagate this teaching. Hence, we need not brand all evil acts in the world as bad. All evil acts which appear to be are not bad. That depends upon what stage of evolution a person is. But now those days, but as a general, as humanity, those days are over. And whatever we have seen the history, there have been many things have been done. There was a slave system, there was sati pratha and all those things there. At that time, probably people got justified. But now, by no stretch of imagination, we can justify those practices. Those days are over, and strength has been won. The time has come when the separated selves must gradually draw together. In the arc of descent or pravritti marg, tendency is to separate, to materialize. In the arc of ascent, the tendency is to unite. That spirit becomes dominance. In the arc of descent, matter becomes dominant. The tendency of matter is to separate, tendency of spirit to unite. So we have to be very clear that we have entered, or we are on the just point of entrance to the arc of ascent or pravritti marg. And we have to tell this fact to make other people realize this thing, and to make, by that process, by that relation, if they are able to come out of their these selfish habits, that will be nice, that will be good for them also individually and for the society. The right, which is the outcome of love, directed by reason. Reason means intellect, higher intellect. At the present stage of evolution, then seeks an ever-increasing realization of unity, a drawing together of separated selves. We are separated selves. It is said that our bodies are creating the walls, and that's why you have to go beyond. We have to transcend the limits of the body. That means our consciousness should go, keeping the body intact, because we have to take the bodies our means for working, keeping our bodies healthy. We have to transcend the limitation of the body. That means our consciousness should not get limited down individually in our self-centered. It should be expand. We should embrace wider things, wider area. That which by establishing the harmonious relations makes the unity is right, Then finally it comes the whatever promotes unity is right, whatever promotes disunity wrong. This will apply to the social movement, to the political movements, to the spiritual movements, so-called spiritual movements. In fact, the movement which is creating disunity cannot be spiritual. It can be religious or sectarian. So we can say whatever sectarian movement or religious movement, whatever political movement, whatever social movement is creating disharmony, that is right, that is wrong for us, and whatever creating unity, harmony, that is right for us. These basic principles have to be kept in mind while following the ethical principles and social morality or universal morality. So to sum up a few points of today's talk, because I was told that 45 minutes I should speak, 3 minutes more left. I'll sum up these points and next we'll cover next time. That science, that ethics is science of morality, science of conduct, and this science is needed to be applied for bringing order, harmony in individual, in family, in society, in community, in a whole world. That is necessary. And we have to realize this science, we have to compare the social morality and the universal morality principles. And wherever the social moral principles are in disagreement or contradicting the universal morals, we have to abandon the social moral principle and we have to move to the universal moral principle. Universal moral principles are unchangeable. They are laws of nature, that is, they are God's impression on the nature, so they cannot be changed. But social moral principles can be changed and have to be changed if they are contradicting the universal morals. That we have to apply your viveka, we have to apply discernment. And then we have to speak, see the, what is right and wrong, define. As I told you, there are 3 criteria, or religious scriptures there, and then principles of science there, testing and experimenting and finding the result and confirming it. And second is our conscience, inner conscience. And third is utilitarian approach. And finally, all the 3 combined in the principle of unity of life. So, and then purpose of unity of life will bring good and happiness to whole humanity, to all creatures and all beings. So that should be purpose of following science of ethics, science of morality. So with this, today's portion I conclude, and rest portion, divine ethics and vices and virtues and their relative relations to the morality, I propose to cover in the next session. Thank you, Smita.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. It was a very nice session and about ethics. And I also came to know so many things. And I hope from next month and after that also, I'll get to know many things. So I like the universal ethics and all, like how this is connected. Like we have some rules and laws in the physical level. We can, if we break that or we do something wrong, then we might be overlooked or we can we can't be punished. But if the universal law or rules can be broken, if I do something bad or something wrong, then there is no partiality. It can't be overlooked because we are there is a unity of life. So if I mean, we all are connected to that universal consciousness. So if I do something wrong, anything, then that affects to the consciousness. Because of that, we have to face that consequences. And universal brotherhood is, we have to realize the universal brotherhood. There is no separate religions or me, you. These are, we are not separate. So very nice. And thank you, sir. Thank you for being here. And thank you everyone for joining. And now we are open for discussion. If anybody has any questions for Brother Pandey, then you can ask. Vimalji, do you want to say something?
Or anybody can add also something.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, what you talked about as a universal consciousness is also called hylojoism or hylojoism.
Yes,
It's
yes.
we are part of a higher entity and that. But I just want to ask Pandeyji that you are in US also. There also there is Islamophobia. In India, there is Islamophobia, and so many countries are doing this. Do you personally feel that we in the TS are speaking enough against this kind of fear?
Uh, yes, I feel we are not speaking, but I also feel some members are, in fact, think and sometimes speak loosely in accordance with that, and there we have to check at least. I had this personal experience. We had some study camp, and there one of the senior members started speaking. So I cautioned him. I said, my experience is otherwise. I have been in Islamic country for 3 years, and my experience is otherwise. So to that extent, we have to check that. Probably speaking openly at this stage, it may not be, may create disharmony. As I told you, people are not as to that stage. And every teaching also cautions us that we should be not rash in telling these principles, because the undeveloped mind may may get disturbed, may get unhinged, and then that may create more disharmony in the society. So that's why the people avoid speaking, say, openly. But in our closed platform, at least where people are speaking like that, we must counter it. That is what we can do individually. Open platform, yes, they may get some problem. That is my experience. And instead of desired result, that may create more adverse result. The heated discussion may come and all those things.
Hmm. Thank you.
But we must support, and we must, to that extent, possibly must do wherever individual. As
Thank
I
you.
told you, the principle of theoretical and every ethics science is that we should not, though our intention may be good, but we should not try to create disorder by putting that something very bluntly, openly. But individually, yes, we can.
Thank you, sir.
Anyone wants to say something or have any questions?
Should not ethics also include animals?
Yes, as I told you, humanity, when you grow, expand our circumference, humanity includes animals, plants, minerals. As I mentioned, you consumption of water, that water is also part of humanity. So if you are wasting water, we are injuring the humanity. If you are wasting electric energy, we are injuring humanity. All the resources are within the encompassing of humanity. So this ethics is also not only human being, but all the whole creation. Wasting is violating the order harmony. If we are wasting resources like water, like energy, if we are wasting, then we are creating disorder and harmony in the society. So we must be mindful and careful for that also.
Thank you.
I was telling here in USA, some of the US system are designed for wastage. For example, Mr. Hiranand, there, how much water we waste in our bathing, that shower. Our Indian system is better when we take bucket water and clean our body. So that way we conserve our water. I've been telling these people in my life for humor that your system is designed for wastage. So why don't you try to rectify it? One bucket of water is good enough for cleaning the body. That is the purpose of bathing. But here, when we open the shower, so much water gets wasted.
Anybody has any questions? Otherwise, we will close the session. So, thank you.
Namaste to everybody. And I want to just inform you one thing. The lecture was such a wonderful and simple and good understanding, ethics and all these things. But especially because we are talking again and again in this thing, matlab, psychological and that So professor of psychology usually participating and questioning you, Professor Hemant Sharma, is no more now. He has left his mortal coil and he has gone to peace. Only
Where
good with that.
he was there? Where he was?
From Jodhpur, I'm Kamal Manoj.
ओहो अच्छा हाँ कौन नमस्कार
कमल
नमस्कार
मनोज मैं जोधपुर
ओके
से बोल रही हूँ। मतलब क्या है, हेमंत शर्मा जी अक्सर जो है साइकोलॉजी पे बोलते, साइकोलॉजी के प्रोफेसर थे एंड ही वाज पुटिंग द क्वेश्चंस इन वेरी गुड, पार्टिसिपेटिंग ऑन ऑनलाइन मीटिंग्स। तो वो जो है ना, मतलब 2 दिन पहले ही वाज गॉन टू पीस। ये
that
बात
is soul a peace.
वेरी सैड एक्चुअली, ही वाज
Yeah.
नॉट मतलब so old, he was
We
on
should pay.
all just retired before 2 years.
Yes, we pay our respectful homage to him. Let him, his soul may pass
That's
to
why
peace.
और आपको मैं प्रणाम करती हूँ। हम पंडित साहब, मतलब मैं बहुत अच्छा लग रहा था, इसलिए मैंने कहा कि थोड़ा सा बोल दो, अदरवाइज को बोलने की जरूरत नहीं।
Thank you, Conrad Banerjee. आप ज्वाइन किए हैं जोधपुर से. Thank you for that.
Vimal ji,
Sorry, yeah, very sorry to hear this.
Yeah,
Thank you for sharing. Thank you. He was very active here.
yeah.
हाँ, that's it.
Okay, so I think we should close the session with the closing prayer. सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः, सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखं भवेत्। So thank you, Pandey sir. Thank you for your nice talk.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone for joining and making this session very fruitful. So we will meet next Sunday. So happy Sunday. Bye bye.
My talk you can keep in next month, not next Sunday.
Yes. Next next month only.
Yeah. It may be 10th or 17th. I will decide.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Smita.